the implications of the loss of AI expertise at Apple. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by the Antigravity A1, and it's not just another drone. Learn more at the Antigravity link in the show notes. The German antitrust investigators are getting into the app tracking transparency game. And it's just more of the same. It's everybody wants to have their own interpretation of these things and mandate. And I believe it was last week we had the story on the show that a lot of these mandates, unfortunately, were intended, if you accept the fact that they said they were intended to try to make things more competitive, it really hasn't resulted in any better competition or any lowering of prices for customers or anything like that. So just if you're going to Germany or in Germany, be aware that this is going on. Let's see. So this just, I believe, was out either yesterday late or today. But Apple's AI chief, Jim Rea, is quote unquote retiring after Siri delays. Okay, is this another case of AI brain drain, or is this a case of somebody being pushed out that because they didn't perform or weren't performing and they want to try somebody new? The gentleman I believe that is going to be coming in and taking his place was head of AI at Microsoft for a while, or at least high up in their structure, and also Google. Yeah. And Google. And so, all right, is that good?
Chuck, I have to do a mea culpa here.
Okay.
So, when we have talked in the past about Apple's AI team members leaving, getting poached, going to other companies, all of that, I've said, yeah, it's a big company. These other companies, sure, they're pulling people away from Apple, but internally, it's probably still okay. This tells me I was wrong. Internally, Apple's AI team has probably been in chaotic turmoil for a long time, and this retirement is a corporate retirement. This is not him retiring. I'm certain of it. He's leaving because Tim said, "Wow, it's time for you to go." And yeah, I think internally Apple is freaking out about their whole AI strategy and implementation, and they need someone else to come in and get this ship running right. And they also need to figure out how to not bleed critical employees out of this space. I mean, one easy way to do it is pay these people more money, which Apple isn't apparently willing to do. But all these other companies will pay them a crap ton of money, so off they go. But yeah, this is this for me is the big red flag saying, yep, Apple is in serious trouble with their whole AI strategy.
Interesting interpretation, Jeff. Eric?
Yeah, I mean, that might not be wrong. I guess I see it more as there's a couple different ways to do it, and I had continued to hold out hope that Apple would eventually have their own internal models that would work. And I think that the timeline they needed to get something like that would be counted in terms of years, not months. And they needed to have something by next spring. And the whole concept of, okay, we're going to give up on our internal model. as a solution to next spring, and we're going to look for something else, which is why, there are all of those comments about, well, maybe we'll talk to Google or Microsoft or whatever, and they're no longer looking for something that's the most complete fit, that's the most private fit, that's the most perfect fit. They're looking for something that works and can deliver a product in the time frame they have by, April of next year, certainly by before developer conference. And I am willing to bet there are a whole pile of people that are unhappy with that particular change because they've been working for years to build out the internal models. And this is a different way of looking at it. And I don't know if there were assurances that once this change was made, that it would go back to the internal models. I don't know if there's enough time for it. In theory, Apple had enough money to do it, or maybe even to do two different routes. Maybe they still are, but there definitely was a big change and a redirection that I don't think everyone was happy with. And this is maybe a good indication of that. Now, that being said, there were some teams, like the team for the Vision Pro, that had some really good results on voice control and interactions with models on that device, even with lower powered chips. And they got moved to a different group to be able to have more influence. So maybe that had some bearing on it too.
Eric, it could be a little column A and a little column B, because like you were saying, we don't know if they're going to continue working on their own internal models. I'd like to think that they are, and I'd like to think that eventually they could deliver a quality product. But so far, they have not been able to deliver.
Marty? Muted again, Marty. Sorry.
Sorry, I got an overactive hyper dog tonight. So, yeah, I'd like a lot of what Eric and Jeff are saying. I am holding out that Apple is dropping some cash to get Google involved, to begin to learn how to build their own model, and eventually we'll get to that Apple will have an efficient, effective way of doing it once they learn from the other folks and I don't want to say outsource it, but they use their kinds of ways of working. I just can't see Apple turning this big a piece over to someone else as soon as they can figure it out themselves. So I'm more hopeful that it's going away and then it's coming back. In that way, it just seems Apple's spending their money not to forever spend their money, but spending their money to learn enough to be able to get it right. Now, I agree with Jeff in terms of the idea that this guy that is out is probably out for other reasons than, he wants to spend more time with his grandchildren. But I think it's more that if you look at the expertise that's being brought in by the person they're bringing in, that's a person that could direct what would be a future model that Apple could have as a standalone model from having to depend on anyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dave, does Apple have to have their own model at this point? As we see right now, it seems like the two top contenders in the last 2 weeks have become Gemini and ChatGPT through Google and OpenAI. All of a sudden, Perplexity seems to be out of the news. Claude seems to be out of the news. But that seems just to be one release away before the order gets shuffled again. And I'm starting to wonder if we guessed that Apple's strategy a while back, that they want to develop their own, they're working on their own, but they're not throwing quite as much money at it as things change so fast.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned all the aforementioned AI models. I mean, Copilot, you have to add them too. I mean, it's doing its thing as well. But I know they're also rumoring about potentially they're seeing code that Apple is going to be integrating ChatGPT into other things, as I was just looking as well. So yeah, it's interesting that the Perplexity really hasn't gotten any traction since it was talked about possibly them buying them, and that didn't happen. But going across the board with all these different models, I mean, I start exploring some of the other ones. I always end up back at ChatGPT. So I know Apple's kind of dropped the ball on this, honestly, as we've been talking about. And now they got this guy out and they got a new person to come in. Maybe this is going to accelerate it. I mean, they got to do something about the S lady. That isn't working right, and it needs to improve. And this is what it is. I look on the corporate side of things. We're still at the mercy of the way systems work. People complain that it's too slow. Well, we don't have any control over that. I don't think anybody has control over that. So you have to see what we're going to have to see what Apple's going to do with this. They may have to just give in and just try to integrate some of these. I think most likely ChatGPT, but they've talked about Gemini too. So, and Google's accelerating Gemini too. You're seeing a lot more added features and such with them as well. But it's just sadly, it's with Apple, it just hasn't happened just yet.
Brian?
Yeah, it got me thinking when I was starting to look at the article and learning a little bit more about these people. The person who's, the focus has been a little bit on the person who was in the position prior, but looking at the person taking over, maybe with Apple where it's at right now, maybe not being as far along as they want to be with their own modeling. I'm thinking perhaps it's more the skill set of the person coming in their background, where they came from. Just looking here about, previously the head of engineering for Google's Gemini Assistant, and corporate vice president of AI at Microsoft. I think maybe it's just more that stability and what's known there. Again, kind of what other people have been saying for some of those quicker wins of utilizing some of those other tools.
Marty, you want to throw in?
Yeah, I just a comment as Dave was talking about ChatGPT and how he keeps going back to it. What I've noticed with 5.1, and then there are some other ways that you can recently with ChatGPT, it's improved remarkably just for what people use it for, but they're starting to branch into areas like coding. They have a whole kind of separate direction that you can go if you want to use it to do vibe coding or to assist in your coding process, and that's taking consideration of what people are using outside of ChatGPT and trying to keep that audience within it. So they're not resting on their laurels competitively.
So again, I'll just go back and ask the same question. Given the speed with which this is developing and all the money that these other organizations have been throwing at this, and where will OpenAI be in a year, 2 years, 3 years? Where will Meta be in that many years? Because it seems like Meta hasn't been getting much press from an AI standpoint. We've made fun of a couple things, including their AI dating here. But so where is the innovation coming from? Where are the leaps forward coming from? At the moment, it seems to be ChatGPT and Gemini.
So, Chuck, when do we hit the plateau? Because there are things that the various big name AI companies are promising that they've been saying, oh, we're a few months away, a few weeks away, next year, the whole agentic AI thing, the whole thing where, oh crap, I just forgot the term, where not self-awareness, but where AI has actual intelligence and a lot of these things, these companies haven't been able to deliver, and I don't think they can deliver because we don't have the infrastructure to be able to support what they need to do. At some point, you just simply can't get enough power or enough servers or enough water to cool everything down to push things farther. And what's going to happen with this whole industry when we get to that point, and how close to that are we? And I'm not implying anything here. I have no idea. Maybe we're months away. Maybe we're years away. I have no idea. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens when we hit that point where that bubble breaks.
Yeah. Eric?
Yeah. Low power on device models are still important to Apple. And many of those, like what they have in Photos where you can search for a picture, work remarkably well. Some of the image to text recognition, that kind of thing, works remarkably well. The big weakness is interactive S-Lady functionality to automate things, to ask questions. That piece is really, really weak. I'm still not convinced anyone can do that well. I'm not convinced there's any model out there that can make that work well, but there are models that make it look like it works far better than what Apple has. And I think right now they're rearranging a bunch of stuff to take advantage of that. We might see some of the downsides of doing things like that later, but at the moment, they at least need to make it look good. I'm hopeful that the low energy on-device model pieces are all maintained and continue forward. That's my only worry by this particular loss.
Brett in the chat room says Apple is still saying that the smarter Siri features are coming early next year. Do we really think that a new AI manager at this late stage is going to make a significant difference in what they ship? I don't know if anybody wants to respond to that. I guess my response is, not necessarily in the short term, but it could very definitely affect the long term if they didn't have the right guy or the right procedures, and now they've got the right guy or the right procedures.
No, there's no nice way to say it. I think Apple is no, okay. I just saved you an edit.
Thank you.
I do not believe Apple is prepared to deliver these Siri features when they are promising now, or when they're saying now. They could not deliver on the features that they were promoting before the iPhone 16 came out, and it's obvious that either the features simply did not exist, or were not at a level where they could even try and do a fake demo of them. They had to make up videos out of whole cloth to demonstrate features that did not exist. And they have not been able to deliver on pretty much anything and since then, or excuse me, from when they announced those features. So they're not showing these to anyone yet. They're not even doing the thing where they say, hey, influencers, come meet with us in New York and sit down in a room, and we're going to show you things. You don't get to touch anything, but we're going to show you things happening. They're not even at that point yet. So why should I believe that a company that has broken that trust is going to be able to deliver these features in this time frame?
MacVoices is brought to you by Antigravity and their brand new Antigravity A1. And this is not just another drone. At this time of year, you look to the skies and hope to catch a glimpse of Santa. But what if you could fly like Santa? The Antigravity A1 drone gets you close. The Antigravity A1 8K drone is all about making flight feel magical, smooth, stable, and incredibly fun. With intuitive controls and smart flight assistance, is designed so you can focus less on piloting and more on the experience. Whether you're capturing a winter landscape, checking out your neighborhood from above, and wondering if you'll fit down that chimney, or just enjoying the thrill of flight, Antigravity helps you see the world from a whole new perspective. And, just like Santa, it's built to be reliable. Antigravity puts a strong emphasis on safety features and thoughtful design, so both new pilots and experienced flyers can fly with confidence. It's the kind of drone that feels approachable, not intimidating, something you'll actually want to take out and fly again and again. So this holiday season, if you've ever looked up the sky and wished you could take to the air like Santa, maybe it's time to make that a little more realistic. The Antigravity drone is a gift that delivers excitement, creativity, and just a bit of holiday magic for you or someone you care about. If you're thinking about buying a drone for the holidays, make it this one. Check out the link in our show notes to learn more. The Antigravity A1 is the world's first 8K 360-degree drone. It's genuinely a game changer. Check out Antigravity and see how easy it is to start flying. This season, don't just watch Santa fly like Santa, but without having to feed the reindeer. Thanks to the Antigravity A1 for supporting MacVoices.
My comment was basically when we try to compare Apple to other companies and what other AI systems are doing. Apple's trying to, I don't think Apple's that interested in answering all of your questions or solving all of your project problems or design problems or coding or things like that. I think Apple is trying to develop a system that's closed, that's a walled garden, and that will be contextual to the user. So, I mean, even Cletus said in the chat room, he said, I need Apple to, with my permission, take my messages and put them in my calendar. That's the kind of personal contextual use of AI that I need to have happen. And in order to do that, they're building a different boat than other ones are floating in. And I think that's part of the problem and part of the slowness of being able to do all that work, do it on device, and keep it within the confines of the user whenever possible.
Eric, back to you.
I think Apple has adequate hardware now to do what they want to do. I don't think Apple's internal models will have that level of flexibility to make Marty happy. I think that in this particular case, bringing in a new person who is willing to go outside of Apple to somebody else's model or to a couple somebody else's models, and try and make that work is the only way to get something to happen in the short term. Because I think the Apple internal solution, if they had kept going the way they were, was like 3 years out. So I think they need to plug somebody else's solution in for a few years and try to figure out how to make it as private as possible and maybe be able to run on Apple's chips to be able to get the energy use down a little bit more. I don't know what it will do as far as whether we'll get a small on-device model or not. That I'm just curious about, and maybe we'll find out next summer. But the putting a new person in so that they can look at everybody else's models and not have to spend billions of dollars to train something and use up 3 states worth of electricity themselves. They need to avoid that problem, and this will let them buy time and produce something, I believe, by the end of April. Now, whether it's reliable, that's a whole separate problem.
Yeah, I want to come back to that, but I want to get Brian's comment in.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking on that idea where we're seeing some of those improvements. What Apple may have promised isn't necessarily in total fruition yet, but there's different aspects by using some of the devices that you're starting to see some of that contextual awareness of what's happening. I'm not sure if anyone in here also uses Workout Buddy when they're on the Apple Fitness, but how it digs into your data of that you have stored on your phone, and it's aware of I'll be on some walk and it'll randomly tell me halfway I'm walking for 20 some odd minutes and it'll just randomly say, you just passed the something thousand mark. At this point last year, you were only at this point. And so it is digging through data at various points and making it, relevant to what you're doing. It isn't as great as, some of those aspects where, what was it advertised as, picking somebody up from the airport that knew that it was in your calendar and it could, oh yeah, by the way, I'll send a message to them saying I'm running late, all those types of things. It's not there yet, but we're seeing advancements, but I think it's just so slow. But, going with the aspect of privacy and, building out their own solutions, it's going to take a while.
So, Eric, bring me back to yours in a second. But Brian, to your point, and it's sort of something that I think Cletus mentioned or said in the chat is making me think along the same lines. If anybody could do what Apple showed in those videos, they would have done it, because nobody would have missed a chance to rub it in Apple's face. Okay, so right now, I don't think anybody has the wherewithal to do it. One of the problems, and this goes to what Eric was saying and what Marty was saying, is they're trying to do it inside a closed system. Eric, you said maybe it can't be done, at least not now or for the foreseeable future, in a closed system. Okay, so are we falling into the thing we were complaining about earlier, or maybe I was complaining about earlier, that we're all politicians and we just want this? And then we find out what it costs in terms of privacy, and it's like, oh, we didn't mean that. So I don't know what the right answer is here, because we criticize Apple for being behind, and yet they're so focused on privacy. We see other people jumping ahead, but engaging in what some people think are questionable practices for training and data acquisition and monitoring through interactions with email, with chat, with purchases, all of those things.
Well, Chuck, then maybe Apple shouldn't have made the promises that they've made at WWDC ahead of the iPhone 16.
Jeff, I wouldn't argue that at all. I think that was a mistake. It might have been, born out of ambition, but no matter what, it is what it is. It was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But still, so setting that aside, or just agreeing that they made a mistake, what will it take to get us what we want? What will we have to give up to get what we want? And that's the part that I'm not sure I'm ready to say it scares me. I just feel like, though, once again, we have to go in with our eyes wide open. Listen, perfect segue to bring us almost back to the beginning. In my Gmail, I was getting notices that, oh, this package is expected today. How do you know that? Well, obviously, you're monitoring the communications I'm having through one of my email addresses with Amazon. And then you're parsing that and telling me when I can expect a given package. Okay, that's fine, because I've allowed that. Or maybe I haven't allowed it. Maybe it was just turned on for me. I mean, think about the first time that Siri told you that, you have 20 minutes to work. And you think, oh, that's interesting. That's useful. And then you start thinking a little more about it. How did it know that? And then you come to the conclusion, it's watching me. It's monitoring me. Well, as long as it's just Siri, the S lady doing it on my device, okay, I'm comfortable with that because it's Apple. But if it's Google, if it's Microsoft, if it's some others, maybe I'm not so comfortable. Maybe I'd rather not have it happening. Brian?
Yeah, I kind of added there too, and maybe I'm too optimistic on it, but I think too sometimes we think about whatever we want to see or have done or can imagine, it's going to be done with that future process. It's not done with our current processes because those current processes will improve. And as long as it can be physically done, it's not breaking the laws of physics, for example, it's going to happen. You think back to, the carrying around terabytes of hard drive space in the palms of our hands. 30 years ago, tell yourself, I'm going to carry around terabytes of data in the palm of my hands. You seem like, loony, it just doesn't make sense. So you think about the what could be possible. I think it's important to consider, there's obviously financial incentives too at hand that are going to encourage these processes to continuously be improved as well.
Guy is in the chat room, and Guy Searle,
Guy, jazz hands.
Mr. Microphone. He makes an interesting point. It can be done in a closed system, but it potentially takes longer. However, a closed system can also, I'm assuming I'm adding a word here, can also allow for breakthroughs when you control the hardware, the software, and the OS. So is that exactly what we're seeing, that it can be done? It's just taking longer, where others are shortcutting it? I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, a shortcut, but a different, maybe a financial incentive or a different business model.
Yeah. Financial incentive. You just slid that right in there, Brian. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of that driving it. Guys, I'm not going to let us run too terribly long. I did want to just point one other thing out that really doesn't have a lot to do with anything we've been talking about, but I think it's kind of fun. That from Engadget, that apparently Netflix went down for some viewers after Stranger Things premiered. The final season of Stranger Things premiered. So even mighty Netflix may have its limitations.
Surprise.
AWS East Coast 1. Oops.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah.
Netflix is not used to having popular shows.
Ooh, wow.
Good one.
They're not set up to handle it. What can you say?
Marty, I know there was a bit of snark there, but yeah, you may have a point that the load balancing isn't up to snuff for something like that. So just, I don't know, any Stranger Things fans here?
Take it or leave it.
I have thoroughly enjoyed it, but when Netflix raised their prices a few months ago, I went ahead and just canceled because at that point it's like, that's a lot of money for me to pay just to wait for a new season of Stranger Things. So I have not seen any of, I guess, season 5. And maybe someday I will.
Yeah, I haven't yet either, but I am looking forward to it because it's been a really interesting series. And Guy, maybe we'll just put this as the final word. Guy said, before you argue for or against any point that I make, remember I'm insane. Okay.
Well, we
Thanks.
knew that.
Yeah. Kind of goes without saying.
As if we forgot.
Guys, thank you. It's good to be back in the saddle after the holidays. We will do this again next Tuesday at youtube.com/MacVoices TV. So folks, please come out and join us. We had a lot of discussion tonight in the chat room. I tried to include as much as I could, but you can benefit if you too show up live and join in that chat. It makes everything better. We're going to go around the room, let you know where you can find these folks when they're not here on Tuesday nights, and then we'll head to After Dark. I'm going to flip it around. It's just one of those nights where everything's off balance, and put Jim Rea at the head of the class. Jim, thank you. Where can folks connect with you?
I'm going to be racing around on the moon
Okay,
in my moon buggy.
that I like it. I like it.
There you go.
But we want pictures when you get it done.
Little movies.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
That'll work too. That'll work too. Thanks, Jim. Eric Bolden, when you're not taking pictures of your birds, where can people find you?
I can be found on Mastodon at EABOLDEN at MAS.TO. Otherwise, on Monday nights, I like talking about Vision OS with Dave and Marty, and occasional other guests. Tuesdays, of course, here. And then on Thursdays, I'm in touch with iOS, kind of rounding out the week with news from all of the OSs. Just sort of a nice gradual, throughout the week with a good finish.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll look forward to the next picture. Marty Jencius, the man of many podcasts. Where can folks connect with you?
You can connect with me at Jencius, Jencius, at Blue Sky or at Mastodon. Monday nights with Eric and Dave on Vision Profiles at 9 p.m. Eastern Time streaming. Tuesdays here, and it's always fun to be here. Great selection of articles to go through and to do. Thursdays with Dave on In Touch with iOS. Again, another set of great articles and directions and that we go with that show. And then occasionally Friday mornings on the British Tech Network with Jeff and Dave and Chuck and Patrice on the Mac Show. So if you want to find out the other projects I'm doing, take a look at the podtalk.net. That's the website that has information on it and links to it.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Marty. Good to see you. Jeff Gamet, I know where folks can find you, but there may be one or two out there that don't and want to. Where would that be?
And want to? It's just crazy talk. All right. So Jay Gamet on the various social medias. I'm active right now on Mastodon, PixelFed, Blue Sky. But since it's December and I have started the Lego Advent Calendar posts again, I am putting those on Instagram because that's where a lot of people know to go look for them. So they're everywhere and Instagram. Then for shows here with you on MacVoices Live, I still am at a loss as to why you keep letting me show up, but thank you. And then on Thursdays with Dave on In Touch with iOS, same goes for you, Dave. I'm still at a loss of why you keep letting me show up, but hey, thank you. And then The Big Show and the Mac Show on the British Tech Network. Brian Chaffin and I do The Context Machine, and Patrice Brendamore and I do Retro Rewatch.
Excellent, Jeff. Thank you. Thank you. Brian Flanigan-Arthurs, thank you for being here, as always, and sharing your thoughts. Where can folks find you?
Appreciate it. Thank you, as always, for having me. Best place to find me is on my website, brian8944.com. Place there you can, if you have any feedback for me, then you can find me here most Tuesday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Excellent. Last but absolutely not least, Mr. Dave Ginsburg, the man who is lit tonight. Where can folks find you?
Yeah, I'm really lit. Oof. Thanks for having me as always, Chuck. And you can find me at InTouchWithIOS, InTouchWithIOS.com, YouTube channel, youtube.com/InTouchWithIOS. As mentioned, the Vision Profiles podcast with Eric and Marty, often being on there. Tuesdays here on MacVoices Live. We record In Touch with iOS Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, and on the YouTube channel, and then on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network on Fridays, and Mastodon, Blue Sky at DaveG65.
Excellent. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. As I mentioned, this is MacVoices Live, Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. Again, thank you so much to the folks in the chat room for all the contributions and keeping us, well, as straight as anybody can ever keep us. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.